It is currently late in the month of July, and the month of July is the month of conferences, big retreats, especially the Steubenville Conferences. They are across the country now. It is a huge Catholic teen hype weekend retreat. Maybe you went to one if you're watching this video. Maybe you are going to go to one. I don't know if they're still going. Or if you're going to or have been to a conference in general, you get this kind of conference or retreat high. You come off of the few days that you were there feeling on top of the world, on fire for Christ, and very often a few days after that will die out. So now that you've gone to the conference, you've been to the big retreat weekend, the few days, you've had your heart set ablaze for Christ, what next? How do you keep that fire burning bright? I'm going to give you 5 tips to maintain that retreat high for the long haul. And tip number 1, a big one, is to not lose contact with the group that you went with, the people that you've experienced this wonderful transformative conference with. Don't lose contact with those people. Stay in contact with them, keep talking with them, share that experience and grow in that experience together as you leave that conference. Because as you leave that amazing conference environment that's so different from the world around you, you need to have people to relate with that experience that you had and hold you accountable to how you felt in that moment, remind you how you felt in that moment, and continue to share, continue to grow as you leave that time. Tip number 2 is focused on music, because at these conferences the music is always so awesome. They have great bands, musicians playing this hype Jesus music, get your blood pumping, get your heart on fire, and you really come alive with that music. That's a big part of the experience. I know for me at the conferences, retreats I've been to, that music has stuck with me, and every time I hear a song that I heard at a conference or retreat that I've been to, it brings me back to that experience the first time I heard it in that moment. So especially if there's a song or multiple songs that you heard on that conference that really spoke to you, that you really loved, listen to that song. Put it on your playlist. Have that on repeat to get those words keep flowing, remind you, and bring you back to that place. Tip number 3 is to start to develop a consistent prayer routine, especially prayer experiences that you had on that retreat that really worked for you, or sacraments that you took part in on the retreat that were really beneficial for you. Experiencing the Mass, experiencing communion, Eucharist during the Mass, going to confession, spending time in adoration. These are all things that you can do at your home church. So seek them out. Go to Mass more often. Take part in the sacrament of confession more often. Go to Eucharistic adoration. Figure out when they're offering it at your church or a nearby church, and go. Spend time in that prayer experience, because that will also bring you back to how you experienced it at the conference. And it won't be the same. It won't be, the big massive Mass, all the people in the lines for confession, the magnificent adoration with the praise and worship that they have at the conferences, but it's the same sacrament, the same Jesus, and it will fill you up all the same. Tip number 4, and I think this is something that regardless if you've gone to a conference or not, is to work on your social media. Look at your social media. Look at the people, the accounts that you follow, the things that you are taking in on a day-to-day basis, and fill your social media with Christian, uplifting, faith-related things. Because that conference environment that you're in, you are surrounded by Jesus all the time. There's just faith everywhere. When you go back into the real world, it's not everywhere, unfortunately. And when you go on social media, it's probably not everywhere, unfortunately. But you can change that. You can take your social media, the things that you look at every single day when you're always on your phone, and fill that up with Jesus, so that every time you're pulling out your phone, scrolling through social media, you get a reminder, a daily reminder of your faith, of Jesus, and continue to be filled. And finally, tip number 5, which is actually one that I just heard the other day from David Calavita, who is a speaker at Steubenville Conferences. Maybe you heard him this year. But what he said was that once you leave this place, sometimes what it comes down to is your commitment to the commitment. Now here's the reality. The faith journey, the life in faith as a follower of Christ, is not always a Steubenville conference. It is rarely a Steubenville Conference. It is rarely being surrounded by thousands of people who are on fire for Jesus. These passionate speakers, sacraments, events, always at your fingertips. It's not always going to be so exciting and awesome. And sometimes it just has to come down to your commitment to the commitment. That not every day you're going to feel on fire for Christ. Maybe even a week after you've left the conference, you might not feel that same fire that you felt there. But remember the commitment. Remember how you felt in that moment and you said, Jesus, I choose to follow you. I choose your love, accept your love. And that love is always there whether you feel it like you're on fire with Jesus' love or not. Because regardless, you've chosen this faith journey. You've chosen this life in Christ and you've made that commitment. And staying loyal to that commitment, even when you don't have the flashing lights and the thousands of supporters of Jesus, even when you're the only one that you've made the commitment and you stay loyal to it on a day-to-day basis. If you're watching this and you went to a Steubenville conference this year, I hope you had a wonderful, transformative experience. I actually never went to one when I was a teenager, and I wish that I did. I hope these tips helped, and I hope you continue to hold on to that passion, that fire for Christ that you found at that conference. God bless.